Hello, fourth graders. Welcome to lesson 2.11, Solve Multi-Step Problems Using Equations. Please pause to write the lesson number and title in your notebook. Today's lesson objective is I can solve multi-step problems using equations. Please pause again to write the lesson objective in your notebook. Today's Unlock the Problem says, Chris Mary's computer has 3 memory cards with 64 gigabytes of space each, and it has 2 memory cards with 16 gigabytes of space each. The files on her computer currently use 78 gigabytes of space. How much memory does her computer have left? Let's look at the blue box that says we're going to underline the important information. Well, my important information is that I have 3 memory cards that each have 64 gigabytes. I have 2 memory cards with 16, and currently I have already used 78 gigabytes. And you can see by my underlining that those are all multiple steps. I need to figure out a total of how many gigabytes she has on her computer before I can say how many she has left. So that's our multi-step part of this problem. The first thing that we need to do is we need to figure out if I have 3 memory cards with 64 gigabytes each, how much that is. So here's our model. We have 64 times 3 boxes. 64 times 3 equals n. So let's do that to the side and let's figure out what n is. So 64 times 3. Go straight up first. 3 times 4 is 12. And we regroup so the 1 goes over here and the 2 goes underneath. And then go diagonal. 3 times 6 is 18 plus 1 is 19. So I get 192. So my first step shows me she has 192 gigabytes. But then she also has 2 memory cards with 16. So I need 2 times 16. Let's do that to the side. 16 times 2. 2 times 6 goes straight up. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 1, now I'm going diagonal. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So I get 32. So out of our memory chips, we have 192 on 3 memory cards, and we have 32 on the additional 2 memory cards. Now, we need to know all together how much memory that is. So in this model here, we're showing we're adding 192 plus 32 to see how much memory total is on the computer. Let's do that to the side. 192 plus 32. 2 plus 2 is 4. 9 plus 3 is 12. And 1 plus 1 is 2. So all together on her computer, she has 224 gigabytes of memory. But then it told us that she has already used, remember up here, 78 gigabytes on her computer. So if she has 224, but she uses 78, uses means we need to know what's left over. We need to subtract. So I start out with 224. And I subtract what's used, 78, and then I'll know how much is left over. So if I have 4, I can't take away 8, so I need to borrow. This becomes a 1, and I move over a 1, which gives me 14. 14 minus 8 is 6. 1 minus 7 I can't do, so I have to borrow again. This becomes a 1, and I have 11. 11 minus 7 is 4, and then drop down the 1. So the difference is 146. So on Chris Mary's computer, she has 146 gigabytes of memory left over. Now if we look at our problem, this was step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, all to get to one answer. That's what that means when we say solve multi-step problems. One of the things that's important with multi-steps problems is the order in which I do my steps. And there's special rules in math that tell me which order to do things in, and those are called the order of operations. And it tells me that whenever I see adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing all together, then there's a rule, and that rule is that we always multiply and divide first, from left to right, just like we're reading. And then, when we're done with all of our multiplying, then we add and subtract, and we still do it from left to right. So, right underneath this is the same problem we had from before about the computer chips. But this time, instead of looking at it step by step by step, we have this big equation. I have 3 times 64 plus 2 times 16 minus 78 equals n. Remember, n is our unknown number. So instead of saying step 1, step 2, step 3, I have this big equation. But all of our bits and pieces are in the equation. This is the 3 memory chips that were each 64. This is the 2 memory chips that were each 16. And this is the 78 that we subtracted at the end. So all of our pieces are there. So this time, we're going to look at a model of how to do this. So if I have 64 and 64 and 64, then what I'm doing is I'm multiplying 3 times 64 because multiplying comes first. So 3 times 64 is 192. We know that because we did it on the page before. All right, then we need to, since this was our first multiplying, we're going to leave our second multiplying alone. So we have an addition sign, that's 2 times 16 minus 78, because we haven't touched any of the rest of it yet. So all of that stays the same. Now look at the problem we have now, and now we're going to do, again, our multiplying first. So we're going to do 2 times 16. We said 2 times 16 is 32, so I have 192 from here, plus 32 gives me 78. And then I'm going to do my subtracting. 192 plus 32 was 224 minus 78 gave me 146. So I get the same answer as before, but instead of doing it step by step by step, I wrote it in one big equation. That works, I just need to know when I have all these numbers, what order do I do them first? And we look to the order of operations to tell us what comes first. We will continue on with the share and show section tomorrow in class. You're almost finished. When you're sure you understand this lesson, go back to your teacher's website and complete the exit slip. See you tomorrow.